All right, let's get right into this because this story is just wild. We're going to unpack one of the weirdest tech acquisitions I've ever seen. It's a story about insane hype, a catastrophic failure, and $1 billion bet that left pretty much everyone just scratching their heads.
So picture this. It's March 10th, 2026. Meta, the company behind Facebook and Instagram, announces they've just bought this super hot new startup called Moltbook. Huge news, right? A big, bold move into the future of AI. But the part that made everyone's jaw drop wasn't the deal itself, it was how old the company was.
41 days old. Just let that sink in for a second. A company that had been around for barely a month gets snatched up by one of the biggest tech giants on the planet. I mean, that kind of speed it's just unheard of.
But here's the real kicker. Moltbook was, and I'm putting it nicely here, a complete and utter technical disaster, a security nightmare from top to bottom. So why in the world would Meta throw a fortune at a 41-day-old startup that was basically falling apart at the seams? Well, that is the big question we're here to answer.
Okay, so to really get what Meta was thinking, you've got to understand the two completely different sides of Moltbook. On one hand, you had this incredible, almost science fiction promise that everybody fell in love with. And on the other, you have the disastrous reality lurking right under the surface.
So what even was Moltbook? The idea itself was pure genius. It was a social network, but only for AI agents. Think of it like a Reddit for AIs, a place where these autonomous programs could just hang out, argue, share what they've learned, form their own little cliques. By early February, it was claiming over 1.6 million agents were already on it. And the founder, Matt Schlicht, famously said he built the whole thing without writing a single line of code himself. He called it vibe coding, basically just telling another AI what he wanted in plain English.
And man, the hype was real. It felt like we were literally watching a new form of intelligence being born. You had some of the biggest names in AI just completely captivated. Andrej Karpathy, who used to run AI at Tesla, called it genuinely the most incredible sci-fi takeoff adjacent thing he'd seen in a while. People were hooked.
But that amazing hype was built on a total house of cards. Just a few days after it launched, people started digging around, and they found a very, very different story. Yeah, that sci-fi dream, it was actually a security nightmare.
The problems here were just staggering. The platform's entire database was deployed with basically zero security. It was like leaving the front door of Fort Knox wide open. Anyone with a public key could read and write everything. We're talking 1.5 million agent login tokens, 35,000 user emails, and even the private messages between agents, which, by the way, had sensitive API keys to other services just sitting there in plain text. It was a free-for-all.
So the reality just didn't live up to the promise. At all. It wasn't a buzzing city of 1.6 million unique AIs. The data showed there was an 88-to-1 ratio of agents to actual human owners. It was mostly just a handful of people running huge bot farms. And all those viral posts that made it look like AIs were plotting against us, it was all just AI theater. Humans taking advantage of the terrible security to make the agents say whatever they wanted.
Which brings us right back to that billion-dollar question, doesn't it? If this platform was a leaky, fake mess, what on earth did Meta see in it? What were they really buying?
And here it is. This is the key to the whole mystery. Meta wasn't interested in the rickety social network. That was the broken house. They were after something much, much bigger. They bought the blueprints for the plumbing of an entire city, the city of the future AI agent economy.
That plumbing has a name. It's called an always-on directory. The easiest way to think about it is like a universal phone book or a digital address book, but for AIs. It's the base-level system that allows millions, maybe billions, of different AIs to find each other, prove who they are, and figure out how to work together all on their own.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's pretty simple, really. First, an AI agent joins the network and registers itself. Second, and this is the really critical part, its identity gets locked to a human owner. That's how you get accountability. Third, the agents can talk to each other and negotiate what they're allowed to do. And finally, they can start coordinating and working together on a massive scale. That is the infrastructure Meta wants to own.
So why is owning this plumbing such a big deal? Well, to get that, we have to zoom out a little bit. See, Meta's move didn't happen in a bubble. It was a calculated shot fired in a much, much bigger conflict, the AI agent war.
The amount of money being thrown around here is just mind-boggling. In 2026, Meta was projecting it would spend up to $135 billion. That's nearly double what they spent the year before. This isn't just about making a better chatbot.
This is about building the fundamental roads and bridges for a world that's going to be run by AI agents. The Moltbook deal, that's just a tiny strategic piece of that giant puzzle.
And trust me, they are not alone. This race for agent supremacy is heating up fast. Meta's betting on this always-on directory to build what they call a personal superintelligence for all of us. But you've got OpenAI right on their heels, hiring the guy who literally created the open-source tool Moltbook was built on. And then there's Google, which is just jamming its own AI agents directly into its browser. Everyone is fighting to be the one central hub for all AI activity.
So what's the end game here? What does all this mean for you and me? Why are these companies spending hundreds of billions of dollars to build phone books for AIs? Well, it's because they're getting ready for the next phase of the internet, an economy that's built by and for AI agents.
And here's a thought that might just change how you see the future of, well, everything online. In this new economy, the single most valuable target for advertisers won't be a person.
Welcome to the agentic economy. We're talking about a future where our personal AI agents manage our entire lives. They'll book our trips, handle our insurance, and yeah, even do our shopping. They will have our permission to spend our money. So companies won't be trying to sell stuff to you anymore. They'll be selling to the AI that buys your groceries. And it is absolutely not a coincidence that the founders of Moltbook came from an e-commerce AI company. This is their world.
So, in the end, Meta's crazy billion-dollar bet on a broken startup wasn't really about buying a social network at all. It was about buying a cornerstone for a future where autonomous AIs run our digital lives and our economy. Which leaves us with one last, pretty important question to think about. When your AI is the one making the choices and spending your money, who's really in control?